Steve Harvey has been hosting Family Feud for over a decade, and in that time he has learned that the game show stage has a way of pulling the truth out of people. Something about the bright lights, the live audience, and the pressure of the moment strips away the masks that people wear in everyday life. But even Steve Harvey, a man who thought he had seen the full range of human behavior on that stage, was not ready for what happened on a Tuesday afternoon in November 2024. Because on that day, a wife stood at the podium, looked her husband square in the face, and exposed a relationship he had been hiding for 2 years. Not a traditional affair, something more complicated, something he had been calling harmless, something he described as just a friendship, his so-called work wife. And when the truth came out, every single person in that studio went completely, absolutely silent. Because what this wife revealed was not just about another woman. It was about everything she had lost while her husband was building a second emotional life with someone else. This story is going to hit different than most. It is not about cheating in the way you might expect. It is about something quieter and in some ways more painful. It is about what happens when the person you married gives the best parts of themselves to someone else and saves the leftovers for you. If you are not subscribed to this channel yet, hit that button right now and turn on the notification bell, because this is the kind of story that changes how you think about relationships. Let me tell you everything. The Porter family from Kansas City, Missouri, arrived at the Family Feud studio looking like a family straight out of a holiday card. Everyone was coordinated. Everyone was smiling. They had rehearsed their entrance wave, practiced their family cheer, and taken a dozen selfies in the parking lot. To anyone watching, the Porters were a family that had it together. But 40-year-old Vanessa Porter knew that the picture everyone was looking at was not the whole frame. Something had been missing from her marriage for a long time, and she had spent the last 2 years trying to figure out what it was. She finally had. Vanessa was a woman who poured herself into everything she did. She was an occupational therapist at a veterans rehabilitation center in Kansas City, where she spent her days helping soldiers and veterans recover from injuries, surgeries, and the invisible wounds of service. She worked with men and women who had lost limbs, who struggled with traumatic brain injuries, and who were fighting to regain the independence that their service had cost them. It was sacred work. Vanessa treated it that way. She was at the center by 7 every morning and rarely left before 6. Her patients trusted her. Her colleagues respected her. Her supervisors considered her one of the most dedicated therapists on staff. At home, Vanessa applied that same dedication to her family. She cooked dinner every night. She managed the household schedule with military precision. She organized the kids' school lives, their extracurriculars, their doctor appointments, their social calendars. She planned every birthday party, every family vacation, every holiday gathering. She was the glue, the calendar, the engine, and the heart of the Porter household. And for a long time, she had believed that her husband, 43-year-old Eric Porter, appreciated all of it. Eric was a marketing director at a mid-sized software company in downtown Kansas City. He was good at his job, creative, strategic. The kind of person who thrived in collaborative environments and who built strong relationships with the people he worked with. That last quality, the ability to build strong relationships, was the thing that had brought the Porter marriage to a breaking point, even though Eric would argue until his last breath that he had never done anything wrong. 2 years ago, Eric had been assigned to work on a major product launch with a new hire named Megan. Megan was 35, single, sharp, and ambitious. She and Eric clicked immediately. They worked well together professionally. But over time, the professional connection had expanded into something else. They started having lunch together every day. They started texting outside of work hours, not about work, but about their lives, their frustrations, their dreams. Eric would tell Megan things he did not tell Vanessa. He would vent to Megan about his stress. He would ask Megan for advice about decisions he had not discussed with his wife. He called Megan his work wife. He said it openly. He said it casually. He said it like it was a joke. But it was not a joke. It was a second relationship that consumed his emotional energy, his attention, and his time, and it left Vanessa with whatever was left over. Vanessa had noticed the change. 2 years ago, Eric used to come home from work. The game started with the Porter family facing the Coleman family from Detroit. The first 2 rounds were normal. Good answers, good energy, Steve Harvey keeping things lively. Eric was charming on camera, telling Steve about his marketing career and cracking jokes with the audience. Vanessa played well too, but there was a stillness behind her eyes that the camera picked up. Something coiled, something waiting. The 3rd round brought the question. Steve read from his card with a grin. Name someone your spouse might be jealous of. Classic Family Feud. The kind of question that usually gets answers like a celebrity crush, a best friend, or an ex. Harmless, playful, Vanessa was at the podium for the face-off. She hit the buzzer first. Steve turned to her. "All right, Vanessa, name someone your spouse might be jealous of." Vanessa did not look at the board. She did not look at Steve. She turned and looked directly at Eric, and with a voice that was calm and clear and carried across every corner of that studio, she said, "His work wife, Megan. The woman he has been emotionally married to for 2 years while I raised his children and kept his house and held his family together." The studio went silent, not a gradual quieting, an instantaneous, total silence that was so complete you could hear the electrical hum of the stage lights overhead. 200 people sat motionless. The Coleman family across the stage froze in place. Steve Harvey's smile disappeared and was replaced by an expression of absolute stunned stillness. His card hovered in midair. His mouth opened slightly. He did not blink for what felt like a very long time. Eric's face underwent a rapid transformation. First shock, his eyes going wide, then confusion, his brow furrowing, then anger, his jaw tightening. "Vanessa, are you serious right now? Megan is my coworker. We are friends. That is it. You are embarrassing us." He said it with the kind of practiced indignation that comes from a person who has rehearsed their defense 1,000 times because deep down they know it will eventually be needed. Vanessa shook her head slowly. "A coworker does not text you good morning every day before you even say it to your wife. A friend does not know your deepest fears when I have not heard you talk about your feelings in 2 years. A colleague does not get the version of you that laughs, that opens up, that is present, while I get the version that scrolls his phone through dinner and gives me one-word answers." The audience began to murmur, not the uncomfortable murmur of people watching a fight, the knowing murmur of people who recognized exactly what Vanessa was describing, because emotional affairs are not rare. They are epidemic, and millions of people watching at home were hearing their own experience described out loud for the first time. Steve Harvey finally moved. He set his card down slowly and ran his hand over his face. When he spoke, his voice was different from his usual host tone. It was personal. "Vanessa, let me make sure I understand what you are telling me. You are saying your husband has not been physically unfaithful, but he has built an emotional relationship with another woman that has taken something away from your marriage." Vanessa nodded. "He gave her the parts of himself that I have been begging for. The attention, the conversation, the vulnerability. He has 2 relationships, Mr. Harvey, and I am the one getting the leftovers." The word leftovers landed in that studio like a physical blow. People in the audience winced. Several women nodded vigorously. One woman in the third row was openly crying. Steve looked at Eric. "Sir, I need to ask you something. Is what your wife is saying true? Do you have this kind of relationship with a coworker?" Eric's anger was wavering. The certainty he had carried into his denial was cracking. "Steve, Megan is my friend. We work together every day. We talk. That is what people who work together do. I have never crossed a line." Vanessa's voice cut through like a blade. "You cross the line every day, Eric. Every time you tell her something you should be telling me. Every time you laugh with her about something you never mentioned to me. Every time you give her your energy and come home empty. The line is not just physical, Eric." "And you know it," Jaden spoke first. The 15-year-old stepped forward with an expression that made him look much older than his years. "Dad, you text more than you talk to any of us. At dinner, your phone is on the table. Every time it buzzes, you check it. Mom asks you about your day and you say, fine. But I have heard you on the phone in the garage laughing and talking for an hour. An hour, Dad. When was the last time you talked to Mom for an hour about anything?" The question hung in the air. Eric had no answer, because the answer was that he could not remember. Amara, the 12-year-old artist, reached into her bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She unfolded it and held it up. It was a drawing, a family portrait, 4 people standing together, a mother and 3 children. The father was drawn separately off to the side, looking at his phone. "I drew this for art class last month," Amara said, her voice trembling. "My teacher asked us to draw our families. This is what ours looks like to me." The image was devastating in its simplicity, a child's honest rendering of a family where the father was physically present but emotionally absent. The studio erupted, not in applause, in emotion. People were crying. People were covering their mouths. The raw honesty of a 12-year-old's drawing had communicated something that adult words had been failing to express for years. Steve Harvey looked at the drawing and had to turn away for a moment. When he turned back, his eyes were wet. Owen, the 7-year-old, did not fully understand what was happening, but he felt the emotion in the room, and he did what children do when the world gets confusing. He walked over to Vanessa and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Mama, do not be sad," he said. "I love you the most." Vanessa broke. The composure she had maintained through her revelation, through Eric's denial, through her children's testimonies, crumbled at the touch of her youngest child's arms. She knelt down and held Owen and cried. Steve walked to the center of the stage. He addressed Eric directly, and his voice carried the weight of personal experience. "Sir, I'm going to tell you something that I wish somebody had told me years ago. An emotional affair is still an affair. When you give another woman the conversations that belong to your wife, that is betrayal. When you share your feelings with someone else while your wife sits at home wondering why you will not open up to her, that is betrayal. When your children draw pictures of you looking at your phone instead of looking at them, that is a consequence of betrayal. You do not need to cross a physical line to break a marriage. You broke yours with text messages and lunch dates and the slow, daily choice to give the best of yourself to someone who is not your wife." Eric was breaking apart. The defensive wall he had constructed, the insistence that Megan was just a friend, that Vanessa was overreacting, that he had never done anything wrong, was collapsing under the combined weight of his wife's pain, his children's testimony, and Steve Harvey's unflinching honesty. His shoulders dropped. His head bowed. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "I did not think I was doing anything wrong. I swear I did not think it was that serious. She was just someone I talked to. Someone who understood the pressure I was under at work." Vanessa stood up from her crouch beside Owen, wiped her eyes, and delivered the line that would define the entire episode. "I understand pressure too, Eric. I work with veterans who are learning to walk again. I come home and raise 3 children. I manage every detail of our lives. I have pressure, Eric. The difference is that I bring mine home to you. You take yours to Megan. And that tells me everything I need to know about where I stand in your life." The standing ovation was enormous. People were on their feet for over a minute, many openly crying. It was not just applause for Vanessa. It was recognition. Millions of viewers watching at home were hearing their own marriages described. The phenomenon of the work spouse, the emotional affair disguised as friendship, the slow erosion of marital intimacy through divided attention. Vanessa had given voice to an experience that millions suffered in silence. Steve made an announcement. The game would continue with the full Porter family. He did not kick Eric off the stage. Instead, he did something more pointed. He told Eric to stand at the end of the line and let Vanessa lead. "Your wife has been carrying this family. It is time you let her drive." The family played on with Vanessa at the center, answering questions with a clarity and confidence that drew cheers from the audience. The Porters won and advanced to fast money. Vanessa and Jaden played fast money together. They scored 174 points and won $20,000. When the total was revealed, Vanessa closed her eyes and exhaled. Not a celebration, a release. 16 years of giving everything she had, and for the first time, she felt like what she gave had been acknowledged by someone other than herself. Her children surrounded her. Eric stood slightly apart, tears on his face, watching his family celebrate in a formation that did not include him at the center. Steve pulled Vanessa aside before the taping ended. "Vanessa, what you did today was one of the bravest things I have seen on this stage. Emotional affairs are the hardest thing to confront because the other person always has plausible deniability. It is always just a friendship. It is always just a work thing. And the person being hurt starts to wonder if they are crazy. You are not crazy. What you described is real. What you felt is valid. And you just helped millions of people watching at home understand that they are not crazy either." When the episode aired 3 weeks later, the response was unlike anything the show had seen that season. The clip went viral within hours, reaching over 75 million views in the first week. But it was not the confrontation itself that dominated the conversation. It was the concept. The phrase "work wife" had been used casually in American culture for years. After Vanessa's episode, that phrase carried new weight. Opinion columns debated it. Psychologists analyzed it on television. HR departments at major companies reviewed their policies on workplace relationships. The casual, joking way that people had used the term suddenly felt uncomfortable, because Vanessa had shown the world what it looked like from the other side. The hashtag #LeftoverLove trended globally for 6 days. People used it to describe what it felt like to be the spouse on the receiving end of an emotional affair. Therapists reported a significant increase in couples seeking counseling specifically because one partner had recognized the work wife or work husband dynamic in their own marriage after watching the episode. Several major relationship counseling platforms cited the episode as a turning point in public awareness about emotional infidelity. Amara's drawing went viral on its own. The image of a family with the father standing apart looking at his phone was shared millions of times. Parents posted their own children's family drawings, and a disturbing number of them showed similar patterns. A parent on a device, separated from the rest of the family. The drawing became a symbol for an entire generation's relationship with technology and emotional availability. Art therapists used it in sessions. schools incorporated family drawing exercises as tools for understanding children's home environments. The impact on the Porter family was painful but ultimately transformative. Eric ended his relationship with Megan the day after the taping. Not gradually, completely. Transferred to a different team at work and established strict professional boundaries. He entered individual therapy and then couples counseling with Vanessa. The therapist identified the pattern immediately. Eric had been using his relationship with Megan as an emotional escape valve, offloading his stress and vulnerability onto someone with no real stake in his life, which allowed him to avoid the harder, more important work of being emotionally present with his wife. The counseling was not easy. Vanessa was angry, justifiably angry. She had spent 2 years feeling like a ghost in her own marriage, and the fact that Eric still insisted he had not done anything technically wrong made the first months of therapy excruciating. But over time, as the therapist helped Eric understand the difference between physical boundaries and emotional ones, something shifted. Eric began to see what he had taken from Vanessa. Not another woman, not an affair, something worse in some ways. He had taken his presence, his attention, his emotional availability. He had given those things to someone else and left Vanessa running the household, raising the children, managing her own demanding career, and wondering why her husband felt like a roommate instead of a partner. 6 months after the episode aired, Family Feud brought Vanessa back for a follow-up segment. She came with all 3 children, and for the first time since the original episode with Eric. Steve greeted them warmly and asked how things were going. Vanessa spoke first. "We are in counseling. It is hard. Some days are better than others, but Eric is present now. He is at the dinner table without his phone. He talks to me, really talks to me. For the first time in 2 years, I feel like I have my husband back." Eric spoke next, and his humility was genuine. "Mr. Harvey, I spent 2 years telling myself that what I was doing was harmless. It took my wife confronting me on national television, my son counting the minutes I spent on my phone, and my daughter drawing a picture of a family I was not really part of for me to understand what I had done. I did not have a physical affair, but I abandoned my wife emotionally, and that is something I am going to spend a long time making right." Steve nodded. "That is growth, sir. Real growth, not the easy kind. The kind that comes from looking in the mirror and not liking what you see and deciding to change anyway." He turned to the camera. "I want to say something to everyone watching. The term work wife, work husband, these are not harmless. They are warning signs. When you build an emotional relationship with someone outside your marriage that mirrors what your marriage should be, you are not just making a friend. You are building a replacement. And the person at home, the person cooking the meals and raising the kids and holding everything together, they feel it. They feel the absence even when they cannot name it. So if you are watching this and you have a work wife or a work husband, ask yourself one question. Does your real spouse get the best of you, or do they get what is left over? Because leftovers are for the refrigerator, not for the person you vowed to love." Vanessa started a blog called Not the Leftovers that became a resource for spouses dealing with their partner's emotional affairs. She wrote with the same clarity and precision that she had shown on that stage, and her honesty resonated with hundreds of thousands of readers. She hosted monthly virtual support sessions where people could share their experiences anonymously. The blog's most popular post, titled The Drawing, told the story of Amara's family portrait and what it had meant for the Porter family. It was read over 2 million times. Vanessa continued her work at the Veterans Center, where she was promoted to lead therapist. She told a colleague that the Family Feud experience had made her a better therapist because it had taught her that healing requires honesty first. "You cannot fix what you refuse to name," she said. "That is true for my patients. And it was true for my marriage." Years later, when people asked Vanessa if she was glad she had exposed Eric's relationship with Megan on national television, her answer was always the same. "I did not expose an affair. I named an absence. For 2 years, my husband was missing from our marriage, and I could not figure out where he went. He was right there in the house. He was at the dinner table. He was in the bed beside me, but he was not there. He was with someone else in every way that mattered except the one everyone thinks of. Naming that absence was the only way to end it, and ending it was the only way to get my husband back. If this story stayed with you, I need you to do one thing right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that emotional presence is not optional in a marriage. Share it with someone who has been getting the leftovers and did not know they were allowed to ask for more. Because on this channel, we believe that the person you come home to deserves the best of you, not what is left over after you have given it to everyone else. I will see you in the next one.